Yeah, I'm
Get the door!
Before we get into the fights, did you see at the press conference Islam talking to the fans in New York City about how Chanko doesn't like to be called John Pork? He goes, "You make him very upset. He's Chanko, not John Pork." I love it. You know what? Like, one thing I love about Islam Makhachev is that, like, skill wise, he's arguably better than Khabib. And, like, but he's, like, still from that Dagestan camp. Like, they're ultra serious. But Islam, he almost has, like, a Gen Z type of sensibility to him. Like, he's got the whole Dagestan values thing all together. But then, like, he seems like he's got the Dagestan thing. But then he's also, like, scrolling through Twitter sometimes. Like, when he's just sitting at home. Because he's, like, so much more fun than Khabib was. Because, like, when you watch Khabib fight, like, that was just a show in itself, watching a guy like that just beat the crap out of people. And Islam Makhachev's the exact same way. But outside of the cage, some of the things that Islam says out there, like, he's a character, dude. He definitely is. But
yeah, they were cheering him.
I mean, he's a big star, as we know. I mean, we've had our fair share of encounters with Islam fans on the channel. We shouldn't be getting too many haters after this one. But there's a lot to talk about, man. We got to get into UFC 322, a couple of other news stories around the MMA world. But first, like I said, historic weekend of fights. UFC 322, biggest card of the year, arguably. It's came and went. So let's.
It was absolutely the biggest card of the year.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, like, I don't know, last year had a lot of big ones. Like, this year it's felt a little, I don't know about dull. Like, the pay-per-views have been good, but this card from start to finish, like, there was not a bad matchup on it. Like, there were a lot of big names on this one. And having an MSG is always awesome. But it was a big weekend, man. And then you got, in the main event and the co-main event, two fighters coming up from different weight classes to try and get second belts. Like, that's always fun to go into a day knowing that, like I'll say this, when I woke up in the morning for UFC 322, like, I really thought about it and I was like, damn, the whole MMA landscape is going to be completely different after tonight. Because when you have two historic title fights like that, it's like no matter what happens, people's opinions of these huge names in the sport are gonna change one way or another, and, like, that part was really interesting to me, and I was like, damn, this is gonna be
that's
a big night.
That's what sells pay-per-views.
Exactly.
Right? So that's why every single pay-per-view, no matter where it's held and who's on it, the stakes, they have to be high.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Not every card's gonna have two potential double champions on it, but still, like I said, the fights, they'll always make sense, and they'll be, they'll make sense on paper as a matchmaking standpoint, but there's got to be a narrative for people to follow and get invested into, and so Islam vacates his lightweight belt. He doesn't lose that. So technically, they put both belts on him still. Like, he's technically a double champion, but not at the same time. And
I think the days of that are probably over, to be honest. If they've made them both vacate like that, and they need main events. Like, that's kind of the whole thing with this. And it's debatable, because I think champ is fun.
And then with Shevchenko and Zhang, you had they fought in 2019.
No, they never fought.
No, they never fought. Okay, no, hold on. What I'm thinking of is Zhang Weili called for a Shevchenko fight after she won, like 6 years ago. So that's
she's definitely called her out a few times, and it's been building.
Dana, I guess, told her along the lines, like, it's just not, the time's not right yet, and that was like forever ago now. So
time feels right now. Well, felt right at this point, because strawweight was running out of contenders for Zhang Weili, that's for sure. And like the pressure on her and Islam to both like you're basically burning the bridge behind you because you're both going up in weight, trying to win titles, and if you lose, now you have no belt. And like, yeah, it worked out for Islam Makhachev, but then for Zhang Weili, it kind of backfired in a sense because now you're really unsure of what's going to happen with her, and even with the strawweight division because we were talking before the show, like Mackenzie Dern is the champ at 115, but if Zhang Weili goes back down there, I think that title reign is pretty much over. So it's interesting to when you think about like the logic behind it. Like even the UFC was taking a risk in that sense because, like I said, now at strawweight you're left with an interesting debacle if Zhang Weili goes down there. But for Islam, I mean, that couldn't have worked out any better. And like I think with that, might as well hop into the main event. And for those who didn't see it, Islam Makhachev defeated Della Maddalena, wins the UFC welterweight title dominantly by unanimous decision. And now Islam joins the small list of fighters who have won championships in multiple weight classes. And I mean, dude, we could really start like anywhere with this because this performance was just nuts. I mean, I kind of wanted to start with Islam's wrestling just because, well, obviously the control time, we got to talk about that. I mean, he basically had 20 minutes of control time in a 25-minute fight. But even besides that, like just from the technical standpoint, like the way Islam was kind of able to goad Jack into being a little more comfortable on the feet and then just immediately shooting, I was kind of impressed by that because, and well, even I kind of have to take it back to the feet though to get to where we're talking about the ground game because like in the basically the first minute of every round, Islam was standing with JDM and you were wondering for like a little bit, you're like, is he going to try and take him down? Because he was doing well on the feet when you think about how he was keeping him off of him with those kicks and the calf kicks especially to JDM's right leg were really effective. But it seemed like Islam would throw a lot to start the round, kind of take his foot off the gas pedal for a sec to let JDM kind of feel a little more comfortable on the feet. And then right when JDM would start to kind of settle in is when Islam would shoot in for the takedown. And he was getting them every single time. And that's just impressive, like fight IQ wise and skill wise. So
yeah, didn't that Della Maddalena had to switch to orthodox in the second he went back to southpaw stance? Right leg was getting chewed up again.
Pretty much. I mean, it was impressive. And when you think of this fight, like going in, you were wondering how Islam was going to do on the feet, and you know he still has like the same kind of flaws in his defense at times, but I think that he's gotten a lot better with his like range management because he's not letting guys get into that boxing range where you can have a scrap like he did against like Dustin Poirier or the very beginning of the Moicano fight. Because I think if he would have done that against Della Maddalena, it wouldn't have gone as well. And even in the fight at one point when they were getting into like those exchanges, you heard Khabib on the sideline telling him to like not engage in this type of fight because like it's not gonna end well even if it seems like it's going well now. So I thought that was pretty smart by his corner. And then when you think of the flip side too with Della Maddalena's corner, as that fight went on, they really just weren't giving him any good advice. It was just all trying to hype him up. And I think you could tell just by the look on Jack's face in those moments. It was like he doesn't really need to get hyped up. He needs some sort of advice because nothing that they're telling him is working. And like, especially
the advice didn't really come until it was desperation time, and basically it was if he's on top of it, if you've got him in that half guard, then you just have to just send it pretty much, and just you gotta.
Dude, they kept saying that. I'm like, I don't think the problem is that Islam's able to hold him down in half guard. It's the fact that he's getting him to the ground. So I don't think Della Maddalena was as worried about his submission defense as he was about his takedown defense in this one. Because like he was doing well on the ground when it comes to defending submissions. And like that's why Islam wasn't able to get a finish despite being able to put himself in some good positions. But like on the feet, Jack couldn't really do anything because he couldn't stay on his feet. Like he's more worried about getting taken down than he is about striking. And the thing is, too, Islam was doing such a good job at feinting on the feet that Jack was reacting to literally everything. And when you're reacting to everything, it's impossible to mount really good offense. And even besides the feints, like I said, Islam Makhachev was chewing up his right leg with those calf kicks. And even the body kicks to keep Jack off of him were doing really well. So it's like, yeah, you could talk about all of the control time that Islam Makhachev had, but it's not like Islam wasn't winning the fight on the feet either. Like, this is the thing. He dominated this fight in every single way against a champion who is really good and really underrated, in my opinion. But just absolutely outstanding. Like, this guy, like, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the fight more? Like, because I do want to get into, like, what I think of Islam just as a fighter. But if you want to give a little more about the fight itself.
No, I want to talk about everything else surrounding it now.
Yeah, because like this is huge. Like, this is such a huge outcome because now you have a star like Islam Makhachev as the welterweight champion. There's so many contenders, but that he can fight next, and we'll get into that after the other welterweight fights that were on this card. But you know, I just want to start with this, and I don't know if this is a hot take. I feel like I've been seeing some rumblings of it on social media, but like this is just how I feel. I truly believe that skill-wise, Islam Makhachev is much better than Khabib was back in his prime. And like Khabib may have been more of like a damaging force on the ground, like when he was on top with the ground and pound. But in terms of like pure technical ability on the feet and on the ground, Islam is just way more well-rounded. Like, when have you seen Khabib throw kicks like that? Or even punches the way that Islam can throw them? Because the thing with Khabib is he was very explosive in the sense that he would shoot and then get you to the cage, take you down, methodically beat you up, and either finish you with ground and pound or a submission. Islam, you really don't know what exactly he's going to try to do to get you to the ground because he has so many ways of doing it. And even in this fight, he showed it. There are multiple times where he would just shoot in the middle of the cage out of nowhere and land the takedowns. There were points where he would get Jack up against the cage, trips, throws, and then even on the ground, like just the way that he's able to distribute his weight in such a way where he makes it impossible for someone to scramble back to their feet on the ground. And even if they do get back to their feet, they're not there for long. Like, it's just so impressive to me. And you think about all of these stories that you heard about Islam years and years ago, like back when Khabib was fighting, and AKA guys would talk about, like, trust me, Khabib's the guy right now, but Islam's going to be next, and he's going to be even better. It's gone exactly that way. Like, it's pretty impressive to see how far this guy's gotten, and now he's won championships in 2 different weight classes. Like, you can't take anything away from the guy at this point. It's not all hype anymore. This dude's just an all-time great, and we're watching it happen.
Yeah, it is. It's a fun thing to be a part of and watch in real time.
I'm grateful we got to go see him fight, like in the midst of his lightweight run, you know, versus Poirier.
Yeah, I didn't get to see much of Khabib's prime, you know. I kind of saw him on the way out, and that's that. But Islam here, kind of see the whole entire rise to the top, and along the way, it's really come a bunch of elite, talented, scary, capable strikers. And he even said in his preview promo for this fight, everybody wants to knock me out, but they can't do it. And it doesn't take, you know, I think with Islam, he is such a technical fighter, and there is so much you can study and learn from him. But at the same time, if you're just casually watching the fight, it doesn't take a lot to see that, oh, this guy is just overpowering when it comes to the grappling advantage and the clinch as well. And he, now you see with this fight against Maddalena, who wants the boxing range, who wants to make it a close up and personal, dirty kind of fight, so that he can that's all it takes is the one punch for JDM. But he's not gonna, he shows one thing, he shows there's no tells pretty much. Islam Makhachev doesn't give you any tells. Like he's looking to take you down, and he probably will take you down. But also like he's also he's capable of knocking people down as well, and he just hasn't had to really showcase it as much because I don't think he's fearless on the feet. And once he gets you down to the ground, then there's just no one that can hang with him there. Whether he's gonna be on top of you or he's gonna keep passing your guard and just try to find a way to tap you. Because that's what he was for the most part that's what he was doing in this fight. But kudos to Della Maddalena for actually not getting tapped and finding ways to get out of these submission holds. I think at a point there was a head and arm triangle choke that Makhachev was going for. He was more or less, I think he was going for Kimura at a point, but Jack managed to scramble out of it, and Jack Della Maddalena did just enough to stay alive and keep all his limbs intact and not get
I credit
put
Craig
out
Jones
cold,
for that.
so.
Honestly, I think having Craig Jones there definitely helped, and I think it helped Volk too, even when he fought Islam. But it's just not enough at this point. It's like to fight Islam Makhachev must be so demoralizing because it's like the whole time you think through camp, I'm gonna be on my back at some point, right?
Yeah.
And then you fight him. And you are on your back round after round like JDM was, and then he gets back to the corner. Like, you could just see the look on his face.
But that's all to, that's all to say what I just said, and all these people he's fought and beaten on this way to the top. You need to, whoever's the one that's meant to beat Islam Makhachev is the guy who's actually gonna be able to wrestle with him and, have some sort of score some sort of control time of their own on the ground with him, because like he said it himself, like you're not really gonna knock him out, if we're being honest. I mean, he's got the chin too as well that holds up, and he's too sharp of a fighter. Like at this point you need somebody that, and now that he is in the bigger weight class, and we'll talk about obviously the first guy that is probably in line to fight him, which I think makes sense. But at this point in time, in this day and age, you're going to see how it actually pans out. But that's it. You just need, now that he is in this bigger weight class, you need that guy that can match his strength. And because even like, he looks natural as a welterweight, whereas lightweight, like he's definitely like killing himself to get to that weight. And
physically he looked great at 170 on weigh-in day. So now that he is here and he is the champion, I think there's gonna be a long list of guys that they gotta just figure out, like, how am I gonna be the one to keep him on the ground and not let him do what he wants, pretty much. It is crazy, like, when you think about all of the guys who are going to be lining up to fight him, and it's hard to see someone beat him at this point. And I even saw people talking about, well, what if Ilia Topuria goes up? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, at this point, now that we've seen Islam Makhachev at 170, I think that, Ilia Topuria has just hands of stone. And, of course,
I mean, yeah,
he could knock out Islam Makhachev. But if this fight gets to the ground between those two, Ilia has no chance. Like, and
that's
nobody
what
would.
I mean.
Like, who
like,
would?
I would be more inclined to, now after last night, I would be more inclined to see JDM fight Ilia Topuria if that were to ever come about in some way, shape, or form. I think those two would put an absolute beating on each other.
Isn't it funny though, like, just to see a conversation completely evaporate? Like, everybody was like, damn, Islam versus Ilia at 170 one day would be amazing, and then everybody sees Islam at 170 and they're like,
second thought, yeah.
Because like I said, if
it's pretty good at this division too.
Well, yeah, like, that's the thing though. Like, before Islam fought at 170, the thought of a fight between Islam and Topuria for the welterweight title was an interesting one. But now that we saw what Islam was able to do at that weight class, like I said, Ilya could definitely have the power to knock Islam Makhachev out, but if he can't keep that fight standing, it's going to be a terrible night for him.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So, and then you look at all the other welterweights, which we'll get to. I don't think that they stand much of a chance either, besides maybe like one or two of them. And I heard some people talking about Hamzat maybe someday if he was going to go and fight him at either 85 or Hamzat coming down to 70. That's another conversation, but I just don't even think that that's likely, though. I don't see Islam taking a fight versus Hamza. That's a risky one. But, yeah, man. Either way, just to kind of put a bow on it, obviously, Islam Makhachev, just pound for pound number one, clearly. We're watching one of the greatest fighters of this generation in the midst of his prime, and it's a privilege. That's for sure. Like I said, I was really thinking about that UFC 302 trip that we took and just being able to watch Islam fight Dustin Poirier.
The most Islam's ever been tested.
That's what I'm saying. Like we picked a good time to go there. That card was kind of trash, but that fight made everything worth it. Yeah. So that was a fun time, and I'm glad that I could say that I got to watch that guy live. So. But yeah, besides that, though, got to talk about the other title fight, too. What's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt the podcast real quick, but we have a message for you guys.
If you enjoy her Hamburg's content, you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on the videos, all sorts of fight content as much as possible, podcasts, interviews, vlogs. We have it all over here, so thank you. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, and like he said, please subscribe. And now, back to the show. Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili, and this fight, in a way, it was pretty similar to the main event. Valentina was able to completely shut Zhang Weili down on the ground, not as much on the feet, but at the same time, I think Zhang had a lot of trouble closing the distance with Valentina, as a lot of fighters do against Valentina. I think the size factor was clearly the big thing in this fight. And I didn't really expect it to be, because at 115, Zhang Weili has such a physicality to her, and she's big for that weight class. So you figured this could be like the main event in a sense, where Zhang Weili could be going up to 125. She's going to be bigger, stronger, but also a lot faster than the flyweights. And she did look faster than Valentina, but it was just she wasn't able to really execute much with that athleticism. Valentina was able to shut Zhang down in every facet of the game, pretty much. Like I said, on the feet, was able to keep the distance, and then when she got her on the ground, it wasn't even close. The strength difference was very, very noticeable, and like I said, I think that's why you have to talk about the size advantage for Valentina in this fight. It shocked me, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it was dominant by the champion. It's crazy. Like 37 years old, and Valentina's still doing this to great fighters who are in their primes, by the way. And she's just a savage, man. But what did you think of this performance by the champ?
Yeah, it's what just everyone kind of already knew to this point about Shevchenko, and if you watched this fight, then you if you were doubting before, which I don't know how much of the majority of people might have actually been Valentina has no chance, but
yeah, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. There were some people and then honestly I thought it was fairly just of what Zhang Weili's done to this point, but I guess the question was, is she going to she's just gonna be small for this weight class? And honestly, yeah, that's what Valentina made her look like. But this is just like the main event. Like, this is a fight that I think is more, the conversation really lies with the narratives and the implications surrounding it, and what's gonna happen next going forward, because both fights were on the dominant side of,
to say the least.
Yeah, on the dominant side of the winners, and whether you expected it or not, it's what happened. And now they're at a point where both of them, it's like, one, like nobody who can beat them, and two, they could just do whatever they want at this point, pretty much. So maybe not so much Islam, because now he's got to prove he can beat other welterweights, but and actually retain that title and defend it. But Shevchenko, how long is she? Yeah, how long is she gonna keep going on for?
Yeah, well, that's the difference, right? Because like Islam Makhachev, he's just getting to 170. He's beaten one welterweight, so now he has all of these contenders to deal with. Valentina fought a champion who is coming up to her weight class, and she's already cleared out her division for the most part. I mean, when you look at Valentina, I gotta say this too, like, one of the things I love about Valentina Shevchenko is she just straight up loves the game. Like, she just wants to keep fighting. She has no interest in, like, these storylines or debates about legacy. She just loves to fight. And, like, Joe Rogan afterwards was asking her, who could you possibly fight next? And she was like, well, I could fight Natalia Silva. I could fight Erin Blanchfield. I could fight Kayla Harrison. Like, she just loves this, man. She just wants to keep going. Everyone's trying to walk her out the door, and she's like, no. I still got stuff I want to do. And I really respect that. And those are all interesting fights because we've talked about it on the show before. Natalia Silva is a rightful top contender. Erin Blanchfield getting that huge win like she got over Tracy Cortez, and obviously she also beat Rose Namajunas before that.
Yeah,
like,
it was Erin and Tracy who fought.
Yeah,
a few years ago.
Yeah, they were. That was a while ago actually. Now I think about it, but
yeah,
and then even when you think about Valentina wanting to fight Kayla Harrison, like that would be a crazy fight. I would actually love to see that because I don't think that you can really say that Valentina would be able to dominate that fight on the ground. So you'd have to hope that she could keep it standing. Like that's kind of where it would be an interesting challenge. I'll say that. But that's what I love about it is like she just wants to keep going, and I think we're gonna see a lot of interesting matchups in the future for Valentina until she decides that it is time, whenever the hell that's gonna be. Because I mean, she's 37 and she's like there's like 3 fights that I could take. That's a whole nother level, man. We could see her fighting until like she's like 45 or 46, like Yoel Romero. But I would love to see that, by the way. But yeah, man, she's awesome, and to see her do that to Zhang Weili and make it basically not even a contest in there at certain points, it was really cool to see. So shout out to Valentina. But then you have to talk about where this puts Zhang Weili.
The body kicks from Valentina Shevchenko. That's what I wanted to highlight. And when just watching it live, and then when they showed the replays and stuff too, it was just her shin right to the solar plexus of Zhang Weili, and honestly, for Zhang Weili to weather that and then have to survive the ground, it's just, that alone is like, there's no wonder that Zhang had nothing to give on the ground, and she couldn't, it was more it was not having nothing to give on the feet. It was just not being able to close the distance and find the opening of, because Zhang Weili is an elite counterpuncher and Valentina Shevchenko is an elite counterpuncher, and now that Zhang Weili is the challenger and the one coming up to the division and the smaller fighter, the whole nine, like Valentina was perfectly fine, just, I'm going to work the angles, I'm going to control the center as much as I can, and I'm not going to be the one to... Because Zhang's got like her signature shadow boxing too when in front of her opponent. So Shevchenko is just sitting back on her back foot and just ready to kill pretty much. So.
Well, it seems like at strawweight, a lot of those fighters, they bite on those feints from Zhang Weili, but Valentina didn't seem to be too fazed by them, and she's seen it all on the feet too. Her Muay Thai is just excellent. I mean, she's been fighting Muay Thai longer than I think we've been alive. So, and she was fighting dudes at certain points back then too, which is even crazier when you think about it. And for her to still be doing this at her age is just incredible. And I will say this, like, she's fantastic, but one thing that rubbed me the wrong way about the UFC broadcast was kind of how they were saying the winner of this fight is the greatest female fighter of all time. Like, did we just forget Amanda Nunes existed? Like, I didn't like that, because especially when you think about this too, Valentina Shevchenko's lost to Amanda Nunes multiple times, so it's not even like they haven't fought and you could debate it. So I just thought that was kind of odd that the UFC decided to just throw Amanda Nunes' legacy aside to promote this fight, because I feel like this fight didn't even need that much promotion. I think a lot of MMA fans are pretty excited for this because, you know, hindsight obviously tells you one thing, but before this fight, we really didn't know how it was going to go. And I think that, I don't know.
I think
that's
that's just a spur of the moment kind of thing.
It's like, why do you have to say greatest of all time? You can say like the best, like current pound for pound. I would agree with you, but it's like I don't see the point to exaggerate it when everyone knows it's not true. Like it's just, and especially when you think that Amanda Nunes might even come back to fight Kayla Harrison. Like, then that's really going to be a funny argument, because if Amanda beats Valentina again, it's like, oh. But I don't know. That made me feel weird when I was watching them kind of break that fight down throughout the night, because they were obviously, like, you know, with pay-per-views, they're hyping up the main and co-main event from the first prelim to basically the main card. Yeah. And that was what they were saying the whole time. They're like, the greatest female fighter. I'm like, I don't know about that, man. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me nitpicking. But overall, this card was absolutely historic, and like there's even more fights that we got to get into, so we might as well keep moving. Now talk about some of these other welterweight fights. Michael Morales stuns Sean Brady, completely steals the hype of probably who was the top contender, and Michael Morales gets that first round knockout over Sean Brady, and just absolutely insane performance. Was completely able to stifle Sean Brady's grappling, and then even besides that, was just hitting him with just straight bombs in there, man. And even like fight IQ wise, for a kid who's 25 years old, like we're sitting here, we're 24, and we're sitting here talking about fights, and this guy's beating Sean Brady. What have we done? But I don't know. I'm just saying. Well, in all seriousness though, like for this kid, Michael Morales, 19-0. 25 years old, just comes in as a prospect, really, for all intents and purposes, and just destroys Sean Brady and is now arguably the number one contender in the welterweight division. I mean, that's insane. When you talk about winners of the night, that's got to be one of them for sure. And you know, when I think about Michael Morales' place in the division now, he beats Sean Brady. He's arguably the number one contender. And now you have to think about a fight with him and Islam Makhachev. And I really do think out of all the contenders that Michael Morales could give Islam the toughest fight, just because of his style. You know, on the feet, he's very aggressive. He's got a lot of power. He would also have a 9-inch reach advantage in that fight, which is very much worth noting. And then even besides that, comes from a judo background, so it's not like Islam's going to be able to take him down with absolute ease, at least we don't think. But just, yeah, stylistically, I think Michael Morales would be the most interesting title fight for Islam Makhachev, and I think that this fight really showed that, because to do that to Sean Brady, who's an excellent grappler in his own right, it proved a lot, that's for sure. And Michael Morales overnight goes from a top prospect to top contender, so absolutely insane.
yeah, without a doubt, and there's gonna be, no matter whether or not he's actually fighting for the title, like he's gonna hold a pretty important spot on a pay-per-view card still going forward. It's just right now, he's probably still another fight away from actually getting that title shot. I mean,
if we're thinking of it realistically, yeah.
I kind of look at it in the same way as Carlos Prates now as well. Carlos Prates is also not that far either at this point. So, it's two guys who can turn your lights out instantly in within one round, like they both did in their respective fights. And you know, like, yeah, if big if that's the way to take down Islam Makhachev, then those are the guys capable of doing it. It's just that
I kind of disagree there. Not with Morales, but with Prates. I don't think Prates has a chance against Islam Makhachev. His grappling.
Well, yeah, we're talking about Morales' fight. So
right,
the emphasis,
Morales,
the emphasis.
I thought you were talking about both of them. My bad.
The emphasis is on him, but
yeah, because I think that Morales has the tools to do it, but Prates, I really don't. I think that the striking maybe, but I think of it the same way as I view now Della Maddalena. I just don't think Prates has the wrestling defense to keep up with a guy like Islam. I don't think, even if he was to hunker down and like really focus on that, I just think that a lot of these guys are still light years behind. But like the welterweight title picture, I mean, there's just so many things to talk about. And before that, though, I do want to get into the Prates win, because that was a big win for him. Probably the best fight of his career when you really think about it, just in terms of the spot that he was in and then who he beat. But like Carlos Prates obviously starched Leon Edwards in the second round of their fight.
Yeah, he starched him all right.
Well, that finish was absolutely insane too, because Prates kept catching him on the stance switches, and that's pretty much what won him this fight in the end, because Leon went from southpaw to orthodox, and right before Leon was really able to settle back in, Prates just went in with that left hand and just starched him. And it was really impressive to me, because Leon was doing pretty well in the first round. The first round was close, because Prates was doing good on the feet, and then Leon, in my opinion, intelligently took him down and was able to get some control time, even took his back at the end of the round. And I think that you have to give Leon round one.
Right. This fight did get past the first round.
It did.
And after that, because Leon was doing well, and Carlos Prates was just getting in his head with the trash talk, and Leon wanted to show him up, and he got, he ate a nasty left hand.
It was just not smart. Like, Leon did well at the end of the first round to get Prates down. He had his back, and it was hilarious when Prates stood back up, and then Leon's just punching him, and Prates just has that hilarious look of just complete carefree look on his face. And even in the clinch, like, Prates was talking to him the entire time, and Leon just let it get under his skin. And he made it a point to try and stand with him in the second round, and he just got starched because of it. And like I said, Prates did such a good job at hitting Leon right as he would switch stances, and it just felt like a matter of time before Prates was going to land a big shot if Leon kept engaging him like that. And then, like I said, Leon switches to orthodox. Prates comes right down the middle with the two and knocks him out cold pretty much. So it was an impressive performance. But, you could talk about the performances from Prates and Morales all you want, but then, like, you automatically have to bring it into the welterweight title picture, because that's, like, the big conversation surrounding this card, how important it was for that division. And, like, so I'll say this. I'm going to start with kind of what I think is going to happen next at welterweight and what I think should happen with this scenario. So, like, and you tell me from there, like, if you think I'm right, if you think I'm out of my mind, but this is just how I feel, judging by, like, how the UFC has handled stuff in the past. So, obviously, Islam Makhachev is now the welterweight champion, dominates Della Maddalena, who is not anywhere near the top of the queue anymore, sadly for him. Michael Morales, Carlos Prates, both get huge wins. I don't see either of them getting a title shot next. I truly believe that Kamaru Usman's getting that next title shot. And before people start attacking me, I don't think Kamaru Usman deserves a title shot more than those two guys, or even Ian Gary, or even Bilal Muhammad in a sense. But I just think that Usman's name value is so big that matchup would be gigantic. Think about it. Islam Makhachev versus Kamaru Usman. That's a marquee fight. And whether you think Usman has a chance or not, it's still a big fight for the UFC, and I think that that's what they're going to do next. So I see it being Islam versus Usman, and then you have to get other fights for the rest of those guys. I think Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates would be an insane matchup, and considering they're on the same timeline, I think it's not the craziest scenario to have them two fighting. And then next week, obviously, Ian Gary's fighting Bilal Muhammad in Qatar. That could catapult either of them back into the title picture. And I think either of them should fight Shavkat with a win in Qatar. And I know Ian Gary's fought Shavkat already, but I think that was such a good, close fight that you could do it again and people wouldn't complain. And I think a Bilal versus Shavkat fight is interesting as well. And that kind of matches up the top of the division as much as you can match them up. And I just think that that's the most realistic thing. Because like I said, Usman's a giant name in the sport. He may not be the right guy on merit, but the UFC doesn't always do things on merit, as we know. And that's just why I think that that's going to be the case, personally. So I don't know if you think I'm out of my mind, if you think I'm right. But, and again, this isn't how I feel. If it was up to me, I think Michael Morales should get a title shot. But I just don't see that happening. I think Usman's going to get it based on name value alone, and he's coming off of a win.
Well, yeah. Well, I think people would have a right or a reason, even including myself, to come after you if it was how you feel. But it's about what you think's going to happen, and it's what's probably going to happen. And at least what I think, I think Usman is worthy of getting the next title shot. I think he should. I think it is a good call. Apart from name value aside, and how it would people would sell and all of that aside, I think Usman just presents that challenge I was talking about earlier about how you need a guy who can weather the wrestling with Islam Makhachev, and not only can they weather it because JDM more or less weathered it, quote unquote, but he didn't get to do much from the position he was in. Kamaru Usman will find ways to work the ground to his advantage and use his strength to out-grapple a guy like Islam, and I think that is enough intrigue for me where if they do have a what should I call it, have a lengthy exchange on the feet, and I think that too is interesting within itself. And
it's interesting to me because of Kamaru's striking style. I think Islam's a better technical striker, but sometimes he struggles with good boxing. And that's kind of what I was talking about, before this fight. Because JDM has good hands, and Islam in the past, he's been hittable against Dustin Poirier, and like I said, even against Renato Moicano, he was getting hit. And Usman has such a good jab that I could see him giving Islam problems on the feet. The thing is, I still think Islam is just worlds better than everybody in the grappling department at 170, besides maybe a Michael Morales, who I think might just have the perfect style to fight a guy like Islam. But I do think that Kamaru does present some interesting problems for Islam Makhachev. But like I said, I still think that that's the fight that they're going to make. And I would still be excited for it, man. Even though I personally wouldn't pick Usman to have the title fight, I'm still a fan at the end of the day. And I would love to see two all-time great fighters, get in there and go at it. So I just think it's the most realistic scenario. And like you were saying, stylistically, it is interesting. Probably more interesting than most of these strikers that are coming up at 170. But you gotta wonder, man, if Islam is able to beat Usman and Morales. I don't know who's beating this guy. But
yep.
Welterweight, man, this is it's a great time to be a fan of that division, that's for sure. Because there's so much that still needs to happen. And next weekend's going to be a whole nother chapter in that top 5 at welterweight. So we'll see what happens next week for that. But before we get out of here, we still have a bunch of fights to talk about, man. Benoit Saint-Denis fighting Beneil Dariush, starched him in 16 seconds.
Yeah, that was scary.
Insane, man. That dude is the truth. Can we just say that? Benoit Saint-Denis.
I'm glad Beneil Dariush wasn't actually out cold, because when he folded like that
face
quickly, I was genuinely bro, he might not get up. But
that was a bad one.
Yeah,
that was a bad one.
So at least with Leon, you could see Leon, and his eyes are open. It was more like he saw a ghost. He was like, "Holy shit!" Like
Leon
really
got sent airborne.
Yeah,
that slow motion shot that they showed of it afterwards, when you just see Leon's feet leave the ground. I was like, "Damn, that's how you know he got hit hard." But Benio got hit pretty hard too, because the way he dropped, like, human beings. I've heard Big John McCarthy talk about this all the time with things that refs are looking for to stop a fight. Human beings do not fall forward naturally. If you're falling forward, your brain is off.
Yeah.
And he
so
just got folded.
when a casual audience sees that, bro, they're probably like, "Holy, like, oh my god, like that guy's dead. Like, he's just done." But luckily, Benio somewhat had his whereabouts within him, and just what are you gonna do? I mean, we need whether or not if you look at the replay and you think Saint Denis landed all of it, it just doesn't matter because it was effective enough, and it's real sucky for Benil Dariush because he's
just been
he gets
perpetually
these big
slept on,
fights.
man.
Like these are big fights that he gets as well. They may not be the most premier spot on the card, but these are premier names that he gets matched up with guys, and he himself is a premier name. So you got a guy like Benoit Saint Denis who's still on his way up, who's fought premier names to this point, to get to this spot on the MSG card, and he gets a finish like that. There's no denying the guy anymore. He's well within the title conversation, and probably with another fight, if he can, not to say he has to finish it like he did this, but if he finds a way to finish it at all, like he will not have to wait long for a title opportunity.
I feel like the Joker when it comes to Benoit Saint Denis, and I'm talking about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. It's like Benoit Saint Denis is a top lightweight, and I'm tired of pretending that he's not. but for real though,
no,
he's only lost to Dustin Poirier, and we're acting like Dustin Poirier is not a top lightweight.
Yeah.
I know he's not fighting anymore, but when Benoit fought him, that was still a big fight. Like I said, Benoit Saint Denis is a top lightweight, and I'm tired of pretending that he's not, because the thing is with lightweight right now, not a lot of the top contenders want to fight, and that's a problem because now Benoit Saint Denis has limited options. Because I would say maybe give him the winner of Saryukian versus Hooker, but you could argue the winner of that deserves a title shot. Although, much like we were just talking about with Islam's next fight, I think that the UFC is most likely going to go with Paddy Pimblett, even though Paddy does not deserve it whatsoever, in my opinion. Not even close. But that's a huge fight nonetheless. I see the UFC going in that direction. So I would love to see Benoit Saint Denis fight the winner of Saryukian versus Hooker, because that would be absolute cinema. But he's insane, man. He's so good all around. His grappling's incredible. We see on the feet that he's got knockout power, and he's technical too. Like the way he strikes in the clinch is really impressive to me, just because there wasn't much to analyze in this fight, but if you want to analyze it, they got in the clinch for like a few seconds, and Benoit almost had him in like the tie clinch because he was hitting him with like uppercuts, and then he went over the top, and that was like the shot that really put Benil out. And so like this dude, he's just violent everywhere. Like that's the thing with him. He's another one of those guys who's always looking to hurt his opponents. It's not about winning like by points with Benoit Saint Denis. And he's one of the best lightweights in the world, that's for sure. And I really hope that they give him a top contender next, because lightweight is kind of a mess right now. Like, Ilia Topuria is the champion. You have Paddy probably getting the next title shot, even though he does not deserve it, coming off of a win over Michael Chandler, of all people. And then I still think that they're probably going to make Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway too. So it limits the options for Benoit Saint Denis. That's why I think that the winner of Saryukian versus Hooker would be a good fight for him, and I think it would move the division forward, especially considering Justin Gaethje apparently doesn't want to fight anybody anymore besides the champion, which I don't understand why he has that mindset, to be honest. But it's just the nature of the division right now, man. It's not like welterweight where everybody's fighting. Like the lightweight division is still filled with a few guys who are pretty much stagnant at the very top. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to see some stuff move around in order to get some progress there. But I'm sure we will at the beginning of the Paramount era. So you've been hearing rumblings like the first pay-per-view in the Paramount era is going to be, well, not pay-per-view, but the first numbered card is going to be Ilya versus Patty. So I think
that'll be big. It's got to be big.
That's why I think it's going to be that. You know what I mean? I think if it was still on ESPN, maybe we'd have a better shot at seeing Ilya fight somebody else who's maybe more worthy, but they definitely want a big fight to start that. And I get it. You know, I mean, business-wise, it makes sense. I'm not saying that I don't understand why Patty would get the title shot next, but I don't agree with it, man. I'm like a hardcore, like, old-school fan. Like, I want to see guys earn their title shot. I don't like when people get fast-tracked and stuff like that. So, just is what it is. Like, I want to see a guy like Benoit Saint Denis fight for the title, not Patty Pimblett. But, you know, we are where we are. So, let's hop into these prelims, man, because there's a lot to talk about here as well. So, we got to start with the, as we used to call it by Sean's house, the prelim main event. Bo Nickel versus Adolfo Vieira. Bo Nickel with a highlight reel finish, knocking Vieira out cold with that head kick. I like the matchup going in because Bo's coming off of that loss to RDR, and you still want to see him rebound, but you don't want to give him an easy fight. And Vieira has really good jiu-jitsu, so you maybe wonder, is Bo going to try and keep it standing, which would be tougher for him than just taking someone down and beating the crap out of them. And, you know, Bo took him down a few times, but obviously gets the finish on the feet in a big way. So that was gigantic for him. And it's cool to see. Like, I know Bo has a lot of haters, but I personally love that we have a guy like Bo Nickel in the UFC with the wrestling pedigree that he's got. And there's so much hype behind him. You know, we've talked a lot about the UFC not having a lot of stars over the past few years. It seems like they're starting to heal that problem a little bit. Because, you know, now we have guys at the very top like Islam Makhachev, Alex Pereira, even Tom Aspinall, Merab, and Ilia Topuria. And it seems like now we're starting to see guys from like the next generation start to get their names more out there, like the Peyton Talbots of the world, Bo Nickel. And I don't know. I like seeing guys like this rise through the ranks. And I think that even after this fight, I would love to see Bo fight someone in like the tail end of the top 15. Even though he's still relatively inexperienced, I think he has the skill set to hang with at least some top middleweights even now. But, because think about it, like, he lost to Ranier de Ridder, who's like still a top contender at middleweight. Like, it's not like he lost to some bum, you know? Like, people are acting like Bo Nickel's a complete scrub because he lost to a top 6 middleweight. It's kind of crazy. But it was an impressive performance by Bo. I don't know if you had much to add to that one. Because it's like, what can you really say besides giving the kid his flowers, you know?
Uh-huh. Well, I guess you could say is...
Bo is a kid! You just go full heel on me.
But, no, because I was actually... What I was going to say about that is talk about his actual detractors and be like, oh, he got this one lucky knockout, pretty much. Because he landed the head kick, he threw the head kick, right time, right place, and he knocked him out. But maybe people are still just waiting. They still want to say, okay, well, let's see if he's gonna do this to somebody in the top 15, pretty much. And yeah, so.
You know who I wouldn't mind seeing him fight, and this will bring us into the next fight too, because I really do feel this way. Because RoboCop got a win over Kopylov a little bit before this.
Yeah.
Could be interesting because RoboCop, he's good on the ground, but like obviously on the feet, he's got insane knockout power. And you know, you talk about Bo's detractors. Oh, well, is he going to be able to do that against somebody who's like a really good striker in a better position than Vieira? RoboCop could be an interesting test of that because he's not someone who's high up in the middleweight rankings, and I think RoboCop actually has a lot to gain by fighting a guy like Bo Nickel and not much to lose. So that could be an interesting fight. And Bo Nickel, like, because right now RoboCop, he's pretty much on the fringe of that top 15, and I think that's kind of the next place you need to go with Bo Nickel at this point. because Vieira he's not a scrub in the UFC by any means, and Bo just got through him easily. So I would love to see Bo fight a guy like RoboCop and then maybe see where we go from there. I mean, and I always put this in the outline. It is kind of the truth. Like, we've had some lackluster UFC Apex main events lately. So I think RoboCop versus Bo Nickel could be an interesting main event for, like, I don't know, like a UFC Apex card, or maybe they want to make it the co-main of a bigger UFC fight night. But, like, I would want to see that fight in a big spot, personally. And like I said, we've seen worse fights.
So you want to
than
see
that.
You want to see a 5-round?
Wouldn't you? I would love to see how Bo Nickel would fare in a 25-minute fight. And him and RoboCop right now are on the same timeline. They're in a similar spot in the middleweight division, and I think they could both test each other in different ways. Because I think Bo wouldn't be able to be as free on the feet with a guy like RoboCop who has so much power. And same thing with RoboCop. He can't really throw caution into the wind against a guy like Bo Nickel who could take him down easily.
Yeah.
And I just think it would be an interesting fight over 25 minutes. And like I said, you've seen some interesting lackluster main events for the UFC Apex lately. So I'm like, why not have that fight as a main event? I mean, seriously, would it be a downgrade from anything we've been seeing? So I think that would be a fun stylistic matchup, personally. But shout out to RoboCop. I've said this before. I love watching him fight. So it's good to see him get a win. I like Kopylov, too. I thought this was a good matchup. This is one of those fights where you saw it on the card and you're like, this is going to be a car crash of a fight. And pretty much was.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about this one earlier, but we could definitely get a little more in depth about it now. Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. Erin Blanchfield avenges her loss to Tracy, which was a long time ago at this point. And Blanchfield's choke had to be one of the more brutal ones that I've seen in a while. When's the last time you saw someone get a rear naked choke with no hooks in? You know how much strength you have to finish somebody like that? I mean, that was insane. And Tracy Cortez, she's a pretty good grappler too. But Erin Blanchfield, I've said this before, I think that she's the best grappler in the flyweight division by far. I don't think it's close.
Think Tracy Cortez just decided, I'm going to just beat you on the feet because you're not that comfortable there, you're not that skilled there yet, and Erin Blanchfield used that against her pretty much.
Tracy did well on the feet, I will give her that, but Blanchfield just doesn't have very good head movement. Like, that's the problem with her, and that's why, like, you know, we were talking about Valentina before. On the ground, I think Erin Blanchfield presents Valentina Shevchenko with a lot of challenges, but on the feet, I really think that the fact that Erin Blanchfield keeps her head on the center line as much as she does, I think that that's a worrying trait against someone like Valentina Shevchenko, who could be such a sniper at times. But it's an interesting matchup, and it seems like Valentina has some interest in it, so it's possible that we could see that next. But I'm not sure, man. Just, this was insane. Like, I love watching Blanchfield fight. I feel like me might be a little biased because, you know, we're all from New Jersey. We know people who train at Silver Fox like Blanchfield does, but it's cool to see someone like that keep rising through the ranks, and I truly think that she's going to get a title fight at some point. It's just a matter of when and possibly against who. So, good win for Erin Blanchfield. Got to shout out Ethan Ewing, too, getting the win over Malcolm Wellmaker in an interesting spot.
That right there. That dude definitely should have gotten a bonus of some
yeah,
sort.
Man, isn't that crazy? I don't think they gave him one, did they? So maybe I don't know, maybe they did. I'm not sure. Let me see. UFC performance.
Definitely should have gotten something. I mean, this guy's essentially just plucked out of obscurity in like 2 days' notice for this fight, maybe even less.
Yeah,
Wellmaker, you know, coming from the Contender Series, he's exciting. He's
undefeated.
He's got knockout flash, knockout power.
And for Ewing to go in there and just completely pick him apart like that on the feet.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like...
Wellmaker was landing for the most part. Like, Wellmaker was landing in his own right, but I think Ewing he kept the front foot pushing.
Yeah. I also thought, like, technique-wise, like, he was a bit stronger technically than Wellmaker was. I think Wellmaker has a lot of power, but you kind of saw the flaws in his technique in this one because Ewing at a lot of points was able to really just tune him up. And the one thing that really impressed me with Wellmaker is the fact that he didn't quit. Like, that's the thing that you worry about sometimes with undefeated fighters who are on the rise and have a lot of hype behind them. It's like, when they are tested in a spot where they're not expecting to be tested, do they break? Wellmaker didn't break, and that's a very, very good thing. Because even though Ethan Ewing gets the win here and now is on a nice trajectory going forward, I still don't doubt Wellmaker's abilities going forward either. I think we could see both of these guys still rise through the ranks at 135, and I hope we do. This reminded me, and I think they even said it on the broadcast, it reminded me of when Evloev fought Diego Lopez in Lopez's UFC debut, which was also on short notice, and then both of them end up being top contenders. I could definitely see both of these guys having a similar trajectory to that, and it was exciting, man. Like, I love that when someone goes in, it feels like they're not supposed to have a chance, and then they go in there and win the fight like that, the way that Ethan Ewing was able to. And that was an exciting fight too, man. I thought that was one of the best fights of the night.
Absolutely.
So shout out to him, man. That was really impressive by Ethan Ewing. I can't wait to see what happens with him going forward. Also got to shout out Kyle Dawkins on his second UFC run. He's been pretty impressive so far. Starches Joe Mearshart.
This new Kyle Dawkins fucking knocks people out.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't know. Because in the beginning, like when he first was fighting in the UFC, it was kind of so-so, up and down. He had that submission game that he still clearly has, as we saw in this fight. But it just seems like he's able to set that submission game up a whole lot better than he was before. You know, he was fighting a lot on the regional circuit in the Northeast, and he was doing really well there, getting a lot of finishes. And the second UFC run has been really impressive so far. And doing that, gelled Mearshart. Pretty nice, man. Pretty nice. And then last but not least for the fights that we're going to talk about, at least the official ones, as we'll get to. Fatima Klein dominated Angela Hill, another Silver Fox alum that we love to see succeed. And it sucks because I love watching Angela Hill fight too. She was one of my first favorite UFC female fighters back when I was getting into the sport. Angela Hill had one of like my favorite marketing tools going into her fight. She used to say when she was fighting that it was, quote, bitch fucking season. I love that. And she's cool. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you ever heard the story of, is it Barney Hill? Just give me a sec, because if people don't know about this, this is crazy.
I don't know about it.
All right. So Angela Hill, her grandparents are Barney and Betty Hill, who have like one of the most famous alien abduction stories in U.S. history, which is like, that's such an insane piece of lore.
But, wow.
Yeah, I guess that's crazy. But, you know, we're talking about Angela Hill, but we really got to talk about Fatima Klein because she dominated this fight. She was about 10 seconds away from getting a finish at the end of the third round. And the end of that fight was kind of crazy because Angela Hill's trying to get back up. Fatima Klein spins, hits her with an elbow as she's getting up, hurts her, then hits her with that head kick. No idea how Angela Hill took that just in the way that she did. But she was definitely hurt at the end of that fight. And I think if you maybe gave Fatima a few more seconds, maybe she could have gotten the finish. But she pretty much did everything in this fight besides get a finish. So gotta respect her for that. And now she's going to be ranked at strawweight going forward. I'm intrigued to see where they put her in the future in terms of matchups because there's a lot of good strawweights out there. It's still one of the more exciting divisions in the women's weight classes. But like I said, that was the last sanctioned fight from UFC 322 that we're going to talk about. But we got to address this, man. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show. The YouTube watchers saw it on the intro. But Dillon Danis is now banned from UFC events going forward after he was jumped by pretty much the entire Team Khabib, including our man Chanko, John Pork himself. Absolutely insane. Like I said, I was watching the beginning of the pay-per-view, and Anik, Rogan, and DC are talking, hyping up the main and co-main event, and then you just see all three of them turn around at the same time, and Rogan's just like, seems like there's some fighting going on behind us right now. And then you, lo and behold, on social media, you start to see the videos come out from MMA Junkie, Uncrowned, a bunch of the other big sites, And you just see Dillon Danis get jumped by an entire team of fighters, and it's like, who else? Like, who else could this possibly happen to? And like, Dillon Danis, you see, there's a lot of people right now who are giving him shit, and you kind of have to say rightfully so, because at the end of the day, this is Dillon Danis's actions coming back to haunt him. It's just the consequences of talking shit about everybody. And to be fair, like, professional fighters shouldn't be fighting each other at events. Like Dana's always said, this makes the sport look bad because there's still a select amount of people in the world who think of MMA as like a brutal, barbaric sport. And when you have the fighters fighting outside of the cage, it's not exactly a great look, but it's like Dillon Danis getting jumped by Team Khabib. That's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, you have to say it. And it's funny though because, we've been doing this for a minute now, and like, you've trained with people who've trained with Dillon Danis. I got to meet him when I was at BKFC. Like, off camera, he's really not that bad of a guy. But it's like when you see him tweeting what he does at all of these different fighters and he talks so much shit, you have to expect things like this to happen. And unfortunately for Dillon, it happened on quite a big stage.
And it
at
got
UFC
him banned.
322. Yeah, now he's banned. Dana White was not happy about that.
Holy shit.
He said that I love what Dana said killed me, because he says he was told that about the beef that Dillon Danis had with Masvidal this week, because they were saying Masvidal was saying it's on site if he runs into Dillon Danis. And so basically Dana said that he asked his people, well, how far is Dillon Danis away right now from Jorge Masvidal? And he's like, about 6 to 7 rows. 6, 7. Sorry, bro. My brain is rotted. I was talking about this actually at work, bro. Like, we're both 24 years old, but I feel like we're starting to hit on status with some of the new jokes. I'm like, once I saw 6, 7, like, so my job outside of here, I work at like a merch printing company. So this is a big sidebar, by the way, but I hope you guys appreciate this story. But so like, there's certain days where I'm at work and I have to count through clothes before I pack, right? And so, I'm counting in dozens. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this generation, man, has rotted my brain so much that every time I get to 6, 7, I say that in my head, and I'm like, I want to be like that clip of John Bernthal in The Walking Dead when he's like hitting himself, and he's like, stop doing that. Like, but I don't even remember what the hell started that conversation. Oh, 6 to 7 rows away. But yeah, so Dana says that Dillon Danis is 6 to 7 rows away from Masvidal, and so he's like, okay. As long as he has a ticket, don't kick him out, no point. And he said he completely neglected to think, and I quote, he says, the entire Muslim Brotherhood was in New York City for this fight for Islam Makhachev, and Dillon Danis gets jumped by all of them, bro, including John Pork, like we said. Our man John Pork. Don't call him John Pork, call him Chonko. It makes him very upset. But this week, I swear to God, man, this card was a meme factory. Like, when you think about all the stuff that happened fight week with our man John Pork, and then Dillon Danis getting jumped, and now you have, like, even in the Leon Edwards Carlos Prates fight, we were talking about that moment at the end of the first round. Like, this card, man, it delivered in every single way, and I just love it, man. Things like this are why I love the UFC. But the UFC was not the only thing that was on last night. I did want to shout BKFC out a little bit too, and obviously for those who've been watching us for a bit, we got to cover BKFC 82 in the beginning of October. That was a real fun time. Definitely watch our vlog if you haven't already. But they had an event yesterday in California. Lorenzo Hunt knocked out Josh Dyer, very end of the fight, which was crazy. So basically, Lorenzo Hunt gets dropped twice in the fight before that. Probably not doing too well on the cards, and then right at the very end of the fight, knocks Josh Dyer out cold. BKFC, they put on so many good fights. And it needs to be said. Like I said, we went there we went to Newark in the beginning of October for BKFC 82. This event in California was really fun. Had a lot of crazy outcomes. Even Aspen Ladd, former UFC fighter, got a nice knockout on this card. Love to see her succeeding outside of the UFC. But this promotion, man, they put on bangers. But the one thing I wish they wouldn't try and do is compete with UFC pay-per-views, because these are insane highlights that they're putting out event after event. But when you're competing with the top UFC pay-per-views, it's tough to get as much traction from like a casual audience. Because I feel like MMA fans kind of keep up with it a bit more, but when it comes to like the casual sports fans, they're not seeing what's happening at BKFC. But I feel like they should, because they put on so many fun fights. And I that's kind of why I wanted to shout them out a little bit. Like, you know, I remember when we first started the podcast, we said that we weren't going to be just a UFC show. We were going to be an MMA show or a combat sports show. And that's kind of why I want to talk about BKFC, because they've been putting on so many good events for such a long time now. And then, like I said, having the chance to cover the event in Newark with Mike Perry and Jeremy Stevens, that was an insane experience. And then to have all of these highlights come out from BKFC 84, I just feel like they deserve such a big spotlight, and they don't really get it as much because they compete with these UFC pay-per-views. So just wanted to say that. Keep an eye on BKFC going forward, because they've been putting on some bangers lately. And just wanted to shout them out. But, you know, next week, another big UFC card is going down in Qatar. 2 massive fights in the main and co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan is fighting Dan Hooker in the main event, and the co-main event, as I said earlier, is Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. Got some other nice fights on this card too. Volkan Ozdemir versus Alonzo Menafield should be a war. Jack Hermanson is fighting Oralbai, our classic caveman-looking fighter. Shout out to Oralbai. And Sergey Spivak is fighting Shamil Gaziev. Alex Perez is fighting Almabayev. Kyoji Horiguchi, his UFC return is on this card. Tapoya's brother's fighting on this card. So, like, we have some stuff to look forward to, that's for sure. For next week's pod, we'll probably be focused on the main and co-main event, because I think both of those fights have major title implications. But for you guys, definitely tune into this whole card, because it's going to be a pretty good one. Definitely better than some of these cards that we had before the pay-per-view, that's for sure. So don't want to miss that main card. Don't want to miss our recap of it next week. Until then, guys, we will see y'all.
Hey, locker.